Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's video covers the latest breaking military news for October 7th, 2025. The global stage has been filled with new tensions, unexpected alliances, and critical updates that could reshape international security. From new weapons testing in the Pacific to border clashes in Eastern Europe, the events unfolding this week show that the world's major powers are preparing for an era of strategic confrontation. So let's dive into what's happening and why it matters. In the last 24 hours, NATO officials confirmed increased surveillance activity across Eastern Europe after reports of Russian troop movements near the Ukrainian border. Satellite imagery shows large convoys of armored vehicles and logistics trucks moving through Belgorod and Kursk regions, signaling potential preparations for new operations. Analysts believe Russia may be repositioning forces as part of a broader strategy to reassert control over contested territories. Western intelligence sources say this activity coincides with renewed drone strikes and artillery fire along several front lines. The situation remains fluid, and NATO forces in Poland and Romania have been placed on heightened alert. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, tensions between China and Taiwan continue to escalate. The Taiwanese Ministry of Defense reported a record number of Chinese aircraft entering its air defense identification zone in the past week, with 45 planes detected in a single day. The sorties included fighter jets, bombers, and electronic warfare aircraft, indicating a full-scale military drill designed to intimidate Taipei and test its defensive capabilities. The United States has responded by deploying two carrier strike groups, the USS Ronald Reagan and USS Theodore Roosevelt, to the Philippine Sea for joint exercises with Japan and Australia. Pentagon officials described the move as a deterrence signal aimed at maintaining freedom of navigation and regional stability. In the Middle East, reports are emerging that Iran has begun large-scale military exercises in the Persian Gulf involving naval, air, and missile units. Iranian state media claims the drills are a response to what they call foreign interference and provocations in the region. Western observers, however, see it as a show of strength amid growing tensions with Israel. Israeli defense officials have been monitoring Iranian ballistic missile tests closely, noting that several new launchers appear capable of longer ranges. The United States Central Command has also increased aerial surveillance to monitor any escalation that might threaten maritime traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. In Eastern Europe, Ukraine's counteroffensive operations continue, with mixed results. After months of intense fighting, Ukrainian forces have reportedly regained several strategic villages near Avdiivka, but progress has been slow and costly. Russian artillery continues to pound Ukrainian positions, while drone warfare has become the defining feature of the conflict. Both sides are deploying hundreds of drones daily for reconnaissance and strike missions. Western supplied weapons such as ATACMS and Storm Shadow missiles have provided Ukraine with deeper strike capabilities, targeting Russian logistics and command centers. However, supply shortages and battlefield fatigue are taking a toll on both soldiers and civilians. On the other hand, Russia has begun deploying a new generation of electronic warfare systems designed to jam GPS-guided munitions and disrupt communications. Ukrainian troops have reported increased signal interference, particularly in frontline areas. Analysts say this represents a significant technological shift, as both sides now rely heavily on drones, GPS targeting, and satellite imagery. Electronic warfare is becoming one of the most critical elements of modern combat, and control of the electromagnetic spectrum could determine who holds the advantage. Across the Atlantic, the United States has announced a new multi-billion-dollar defense initiative focusing on hypersonic weapons and artificial intelligence integration. The Pentagon revealed that its next-generation hypersonic missile system, known as the Valkyrie, has entered final testing. Capable of speeds exceeding Mach 7, the weapon is designed to penetrate advanced air defense systems and deliver precision strikes. Military analysts note that this development marks the next phase in the arms race among superpowers, as Russia and China have already fielded operational hypersonic platforms. The U.S. aims to close the gap and establish deterrence through superior speed and accuracy. Europe, too, is seeing a surge in defense spending. Germany, France, and the United Kingdom have all approved major budget increases for 2026, citing growing threats from Russia and instability in the Middle East. The European Union is also discussing the creation of a joint defense industrial strategy to improve ammunition production and logistics coordination. The move comes after months of shortages in artillery shells and air defense missiles, which have hindered support efforts for Ukraine. European leaders are emphasizing the need for autonomy in defense production to avoid over-reliance on the U.S. supply chain. In the Indo-Pacific, Japan has officially launched its new FX stealth fighter program in cooperation with the United Kingdom and Italy. The advanced aircraft, expected to replace Japan's aging F-2 fleet, will integrate cutting-edge radar, electronic warfare systems, and AI-assisted targeting. Tokyo's defense ministry described the project as essential for maintaining air superiority in the face of growing Chinese and North Korean threats. Speaking of North Korea, satellite imagery this week confirmed that Pyongyang has resumed operations at one of its nuclear enrichment sites. Intelligence sources suggest the regime may be preparing for another underground nuclear test, which would be its first since 2017. The move could trigger a strong international response and heighten tensions on the Korean peninsula. Meanwhile, in Africa, reports indicate growing instability in the Sahel region, where insurgent groups have expanded operations across Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. The recent withdrawal of several Western forces has created a security vacuum now filled by local militias and foreign mercenaries. Russian-linked Wagner Group elements are believed to be operating in several regions, providing training and logistics support in exchange for access to mineral resources. The United Nations has expressed concern about increasing violence against civilians and the humanitarian crisis that continues to worsen in the region. In South America, Venezuela has announced new military cooperation agreements with China, focusing on training, surveillance, and cyber defense. U.S. officials have warned that this partnership could give Beijing access to strategic intelligence in the Western Hemisphere. The announcement follows increased tension between Caracas and its neighbors over border disputes and control of energy resources. Regional analysts believe this is part of China's broader effort to expand its influence in Latin America through military and economic partnerships. Elsewhere, Turkey has completed testing of its indigenous fifth-generation fighter jet, the Khan. The aircraft reportedly performed beyond expectations in recent trials, marking a major milestone for Ankara's defense ambitions. Turkey is positioning itself as a regional power capable of producing its own high-end defense systems, including drones, missiles, and warships. The Khan program has drawn attention from several countries interested in defense cooperation, potentially reshaping alliances in the Middle East and the Caucasus. Cyber warfare remains one of the most active and least visible fronts. Several cybersecurity agencies in the U.S. and Europe have reported increased activity from state-sponsored hacking groups targeting military databases, defense contractors, and satellite networks. Analysts warn that cyber attacks are becoming a preferred method of espionage and sabotage, capable of crippling logistics systems without firing a single shot. The latest reports indicate that hackers linked to both China and Russia have attempted to penetrate NATO communication channels. So far, officials claim no major breaches have occurred, but the frequency and sophistication of attacks are rising sharply. In space, the militarization race continues to accelerate. The U.S. Space Force has confirmed the deployment of new orbital surveillance satellites designed to track foreign military satellites and space debris. Russia, for its part, has conducted another test of an anti-satellite missile system, drawing criticism from Western governments. The potential for space-based conflict is becoming a growing concern among defense planners, as modern military operations rely heavily on GPS, communication, and reconnaissance satellites. Experts warn that disabling even a small portion of these assets could disrupt global communications and navigation systems, Amid these developments, global defense analysts are warning of a new era of strategic instability. Unlike the Cold War, where two blocs maintained balance through nuclear deterrence, today's landscape involves multiple powers with advanced technologies and competing regional interests. The proliferation of drones, hypersonics, AI, and cyber capabilities has blurred traditional boundaries between war and peace. Minor incidents, miscalculations, or technological failures could escalate into full-scale crises more rapidly than ever before. One of the more concerning reports this week comes from the Arctic region, where both Russia and NATO have increased military patrols as the polar ice continues to recede. The melting ice has opened new sea routes and exposed valuable energy resources, leading to a quiet but intense competition for control. Russian submarines and Arctic brigades have expanded their presence, while the U.S. and Canada have stepped up joint exercises. Environmental scientists warn that any military confrontation in the Arctic could have catastrophic ecological consequences. In addition, global arms trade data shows a 15% increase in weapons sales compared to last year. Most of the growth is driven by Asia and the Middle East, where regional powers are racing to modernize their forces. The demand for drones, air defense systems, and long-range missiles is at an all-time high. Defense contractors in the U.S., France, and South Korea are reporting record profits, underscoring how global insecurity has become a powerful economic engine. While many nations are strengthening their defenses, humanitarian organizations are urging governments to focus on de-escalation and diplomacy. The United Nations has called for renewed talks between Ukraine and Russia, though prospects for peace remain bleak. Similarly, tensions in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait are prompting international calls for dialogue to prevent accidental conflict. Unfortunately, the world seems to be moving toward greater militarization rather than cooperation. In summary, October 7th, 2025, stands as another reminder of how fragile global security has become. From Eastern Europe's battlefields to the Pacific's contested waters, the world is witnessing a transformation in military strategy and technology. Nations are preparing for the next generation of warfare, one dominated by drones, AI, and hypersonic weapons. Yet amid this race for superiority, the underlying risk is clear. Miscalculation could bring devastating consequences. As we continue to monitor these developments, one thing is certain: the global balance of power is shifting faster than anyone anticipated. That's all for today's military news update. Stay tuned as we continue to track these evolving stories from every corner of the world. If you found this report informative, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more detailed analysis and updates on global defense and security. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.